Okay, hello Cloud Gurus and welcome to this lecture. This is part 2 of EBS volumes and it is a lab, so you will need to log back into the AWS console. Okay, so here I am. My snap has now completed. We can see it's 1 gig in size and it's the snap of my magnetic volume. So what I can now do is go ahead to my volumes over here. I can grab this volume and I'm just going to go ahead and detach the volume and hit yes. Because the instance is stopped, it should detach relatively quickly. So you can just hit the refresh in here. There you go, it is now available. And I'm going to go ahead and delete this volume. So yes, delete. Now, what we want to now do is create a new volume from our snapshot. So we're going to hit create volume. So we're going to go back over to our snapshots. We're going to click on my snap. We're going to go actions, create volume. And here you can see now that we can change the volume type. So this is really important for the exam. If you are doing anything in terms of best practice, you should always stop your EC2 instances, create a snap, and then change the volume type in here. And that's how you can change magnetic through to all the different other ones. The other ones you can do on the fly, but it is best practice to stop your instances first, because then you know it's going to be application consistent. So I'm going to go ahead and do provision a general purpose SSD. 1 gig is fine. I'm going to put it in EU West 1B, which is where my EC2 instance is. And I go ahead and hit create. And so that has now been created successfully. If we go back over to our volumes, we can see it in here. So now all I'm going to do is go ahead and attach the volume. So go attach. And then if we click in here, we'll be able to see our EC2 instance. And then we'll go ahead and click attach. And now it has changed its status to in use. Let's go back over to the EC2 dashboard and let's go and start this instance again. So instance state start. And then I'm just going to wait for this instance to come back up, get its public IP address, and then I'm going to SSH back into the EC2 instance. Okay, so I'm logged into my EC2 instance. I'm going to type in lsblk. There we go. We can see the XVDF mount. It hasn't been mounted to anything. Now, if you remember in the last lecture, we talked about creating a file system. So if I went and created a file system over XVDF, it would actually go ahead and just wipe all my data. So what you might want to do is just test whether or not that volume has data on it. And to do that, we just type in file -s. And then the address, so /dev/xvdf, and you'll see it's returning some data. Now, if that just said data itself, it means that it is blank, but because it's coming back with some data, it means that there are files on there. And so now all we want to do is, if we go to the A Cloud Guru directory, you can see that it does exist, but there's nothing inside it. So we'll go back a directory. And now what we want to do is we just want to go mount dev and then xvdf, and we're going to do that to A Cloud Guru and hit enter. And then if we go into the A Cloud Guru directory, so A Cloud Guru, we type ls, we can now see the hello.txt file. If we go nano hello.txt, you can see the data in there. And then if we also type in, I'll just clear the screen to make it a bit easier. If we type in lsblk, you'll be able to see that the mount point is for this volume is to A Cloud Guru. Okay, so let's clean up. We'll go in here and we're just going to delete this instance. Go ahead and terminate it. Hit yes, terminate. Now, of course, when I terminate an instance, if we go back over to volumes, we'll be able to see if we hit the refresh button here. It might take a couple of minutes. Okay, so hit refresh. We can see that the root device volume has now disappeared because we've deleted it. But the volume that we attached to it, because we didn't have delete on termination checked, the volume, it still exists here. And that can be a big thing that catches students out, is when they're adding additional volumes to their EC2 instances, they go in and delete the EC2 instances, but those additional volumes are not deleted as well. So go ahead and delete that volume. You can also go across to snapshots and delete your snaps as well. I've still got some snaps left over from other courses as well. So I'm going to go in and delete those so I'm not charged anything. Okay, so what are my exam tips? And you really, if you go into the exam knowing EBS volumes inside out as well as VPC, you're really set up to pass all 3 associate exams, to be honest. So these are my exam tips. The EBS volumes can be changed on the fly, except for magnetic standard. For magnetic standard, as we saw in the last lab, what we had to do is, stop the EC2 instance, take a snapshot, and then create a new volume from that snap, and then we could change the volume type. And that is best practice. It's always best practice to stop your EC2 instances and then do a change on the volume. So you might get a whole bunch of different scenario questions. Your best shot is to always stop your EC2 instances first, take a snapshot, and then create a new volume from that snapshot. And you can change volume types, just like I said, by taking a snapshot and then using the snapshot to create a new volume. If you do change the volume on the fly, you're going to have to wait for 6 hours before making another change. So that's when you're changing the volume type or when you're changing the volume size. If you do change the volume size, you're going to have to tell the file system to recheck the volume in order for it to see the new volume size. And then you can scale EBS volumes up only. So you can't go from 500 gigs down to 250 gigs. You have to go from 500 gigs up to 600 gigs, for example. And then volumes must be in the same availability zone as the EC2 instances. And there's no magic button where you can just say migrate this volume to another availability zone. The way you do it is, again, you take a snapshot and then you create a new volume from that snapshot, and then you can put that new snapshot or that new volume into another availability zone. So that is it from me, guys. It was a bit of a long one, but it is so important to get this to understand EBS inside out, especially for the Certified Solutions Architect Associate course, as well as the SysOps Administrator Associate exam. So if you have any questions, please let me know. If not, feel free to move on to the next lecture. Thank you.